Hi, Storymakers. I'm Max Kringen, and this is Tell the Podcast, where we get to know the humans behind the campaigns, the brands, and the causes that actually move people to action. Every week, I sit down with mission-driven leaders, fundraisers, storytellers, and the people on the ground actually making it happen. We talk about what worked, what flopped, and the moments that changed the way they think about fundraising, storytelling, and inviting people into a story. If you're in the middle of it, building trust, raising money, trying to tell a story that matters, you're in the right place. Now, let's get into this week's Tell All the Podcast.
Over the rainbow.
Kara Jorvig, welcome to Tell All the Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for being here. I'm super excited to kick off this conversation. But for anybody who maybe has their head buried in the sand and doesn't know who you are, who's Kara?
Who's Kara? Well, I'll start with who Allegro Group is.
Okay.
How's that? And then we can get into the deep who Kara Jorvig really is.
Oh, I like that.
So Allegro Group, we work with CEOs. We help strengthen their leadership and their teams as they're growing and scaling. So I serve as a chief advisor to CEOs and presidents, and my role is really to help them build clarity on where they're going, strengthen the alignment of their team and organization, and then activate, so move things into action. So we focus a lot on skill building and behaviors that drive culture.
Wow. That was, as your marketing person or marketing support is also in the room, I think they really appreciate that. Can you break that down? What does that mean for humans?
What does that mean for humans? I think that organizations lack clarity. I think clarity is a skill. It's a muscle that requires reps. So clarity, or the lack thereof, is one of the number one hurdles that businesses and teams face as they're trying to figure out their vision, their mission. So my role and really our team's passion is to help leaders slow down, break their pace, to work on that clarity. And then organizational and team alignment. I mean, have you ever been on a team, Max, that isn't on the same page?
Oh my gosh. Yes, regularly, even today, right? Trying to get everybody on the same page on a regular basis. Hard to impossible.
Absolutely. It's a constant challenge.
Yeah.
And so we want to strengthen that. We want to help bridge alignment through translation of clarity. We want to help with a shared language, values, commitment, competing priorities, trying to get that dialed in. And then the action piece of it, it's continuing to play to the leadership gap. So many organizations right now are facing a leadership gap. There's a lot of businesses too that are focusing on pipeline or bench strength as they're thinking about growth or thinking about leadership transitions. So again, that's the three phases that we take organizations through: is building that clarity, strengthening the alignment, and then figure out the best ways to activate.
So that was Allegro Group.
That was Allegro.
But who's Kara?
Who's Kara? What do you want to know?
I'm curious. We have kind of like your story that the internet knows, right? But I'm more curious, like, what got you curious about this work?
You took the words right out of my head. Curious. I would say that has been the common theme to my career, personally and professionally. I'm just a curious person. So I've been studying leadership and business and human behavior my entire life. I started interviewing on behalf of an organization when I was 19 years old, and I'm fascinated with people and their story. And even when I travel somewhere, I just look around. If I'm sitting at a resort or I'm, I don't know, even at a restaurant with my family, and I'm always thinking about how things work. So I'm a curious person. My nickname, Curious Georgina, affectionately known as.
Fantastic. I was gonna say, what is the Will Ferrell SNL like? When he's Harry Carey. Do you know which one I'm talking about? I'm curious like a cat. Do you remember this?
I'm going to look for it when I leave here.
Okay, I was going to say best of Will Ferrell. It is on there.
I do love Will Ferrell.
I love Will Ferrell.
I do too.
So let's dig into it a little bit more, because you founded Allegro Group with the idea of helping executives and teams to take themselves and their teams to new levels of success. I'm curious, what is one foundational miss that you commonly see in leaders or teams that are stuck? And then how do you invite them to think about that differently?
One common theme.
One common miss.
One common miss where leaders are stuck.
where leaders are stuck, or they're just like, I'm focused on this, but actually you should be focused on that?
I would say self-awareness.
Oh.
I think that a lot of people think they're self-aware, but they're maybe missing the mark on that. And I would say a lot of executives, boards, that's a top competency that people are looking for within leaders, especially right now, is that they're deepening their self-awareness, their understanding of self. Super passionate about personal growth, inspiring personal growth and connection to business. So I gave you our big marketing talk track on what Allegro Group does, and we're helping build clarity on strategy and team and performance. But personal growth and connection to all of that, I really believe that when people work on themselves, to include deepening their self-awareness, those things can ultimately translate into business results. And not everybody thinks about it that way, but that's something that's deeply important to me.
Super, super important. And I think very relevant to the leaders and fundraisers and marketing folks that are listening. But okay, let's real talk. Most CEOs, most leaders of organizations, maybe not most, a lot, are assholes. Right? Very self-confident, they think that they're self-aware, but oftentimes they're missing the mark. How do you, I don't know, not bully them, but how do you slap them in the face with the reality of, oh, I'm super self-aware because I read, what is it, what was a Stoic book? The 365 days of Stoic, whatever, right? I read that, and so therefore, I'm wise. But they're actually totally missing the point.
I think you said a couple key things there. So I use the word boss hole. I don't know that I like to assume that everybody operates with pure and honest intentions. I actually gave a talk earlier this week, and I said to the audience, I know how boss holes are formed. And I think a lot of times we stop building the muscle of compassion for others, especially CEOs, because they're at the top. They're expected to have it all figured out. And maybe they should. They have a responsibility and a privilege, no doubt. But I would also encourage people to think about the pressure and the pace and the heavy responsibility and the complexity and the ambiguity that leaders are dealing with right now. And when you have to sustain that environment, and even sometimes when you create it, there can be an emotional build that can often be projected into your culture, and it can manifest in terms of how people feel about you, that you're an asshole or a boss hole. So I know how boss holes are built. And I also think you also said something very important as it relates to self-awareness, because it's one thing to say, I'm self-aware that I'm not a good listener. It's a whole nother thing to do something about that. So I think that's what you're talking about is I read the book.
Yep.
And I'm aware, have this information, but I'm not applying it to my life. So forcing a self-awareness is kind of what you're talking about, like someone who's completely not aware, but how do you actually wake them up a little bit? In my experience, a lot of people don't do that unless they have a certain amount of pain or they're not having success in a certain area. So you are talking about leaders that are very confident, they're competent, they're having a good amount of success. But I find a lot of CEOs get to a space in their life where they mature and they get into kind of a contemplative season. You can have so much success in your life, but what if it doesn't fulfill you? Favorite quote of all time: success without fulfillment would be the ultimate failure. So I think leaders that are values-based, they value things like culture and people. They don't just say that, they do. Yeah. I think that they get into this contemplative state and they start wondering, what's this all about? What's my purpose? What's the impact that I want to make and leave? Some people say or call it legacy. For others, I think, that are humble, that's kind of a buzzword for folks, but I don't know. I don't think all CEOs are assholes.
I don't think that they're all assholes. I think
Aren't you a CEO, Max?
I am, and I have asshole-ish tendencies, which I know and I recognize. But I think one of the funniest ones for me is just I have a great team who is happy to hold up a mirror, but as I consume content feverishly, right, ferociously, I bet I listen to an hour to 3 hours of podcasts or an audiobook over the course of a day, right? And multiply that out, it's a lot of inputs. And sometimes one of the things that I find I do is I'm really good at seeing those things that they're talking about in others, right? Either oh, we should be looking for this, or we want to be avoiding doing that. But sometimes that mirror is much harder to hold up. How do you maybe go about starting that conversation to be like, hey, all of these things that you're consuming, all of these inputs that you're taking in that you're like projecting out, how do you get folks to hold up that mirror?
How did you do it? When did
I
you
don't-
start investing
I
in
need other
yourself?
people to do it. So
No.
so I have a great team, right? So like I have Duncan, who is my business partner. I have Annie, who's our chief of staff. I've known Annie for 11 years, and she and I know how each other like think
Yep.
and feel and do. And like we know each other's strengths enough where we can hold it up in a way that like best relates to them. Right? That they're going to receive it better. And I think that's one of the key ways. But I would be very scared if I didn't have, those couple of key folks that are willing to hold up that mirror.
Well, you trust them.
Yes.
I think trust is the foundation of all things. And I think trust comes with skill too. It takes time. It's like any relationship. You clearly foster the relationships that you have with both of those people. And I think too, giving and receiving feedback or holding up that mirror, I mean, that's a vulnerable and also courageous thing to do. I really admire or am inspired by people that work at skillfully giving feedback. And there's a lot of people that might say that feedback is not a gift. I do think that there are golden nuggets in all things that people think or feel about you. Understanding how you're perceived by others is a powerful thing, because the more self-aware you are about it, the more intentional you can be about who you want to be, how you want to show up. I just told a client today that I was working with, I'm not trying to change or rewire you. That's not the goal here. But the more self-aware that you are, the more you can temper things about yourself, which that's an empowering feeling. I want to have the ability to temper some things about myself. If you're really driven or you're super intense or you're very passionate, I don't want to change those things about you. That's part of the success of what drives your organization at Teltwell. But if you know those things about yourself and you adjust or adapt based on different communication styles or people that you're trying to inspire or motivate, I just think that's empowering. But that all comes from deepening your self-awareness.
The other thing that can do is it can lower the fence a little bit too, to say, hey, I recognize this about myself. And so that might give you an indicator of how I'm going to be showing up to
Right.
this. And you need to know that it's not against you. It is not, my intensity is not against you, but it's for whatever this thing is.
Right.
And I think it's an interesting ability to invite somebody into that conversation
I agree.
by level setting.
No, I agree.
Are you an Adam Grant fan?
I'm familiar.
Okay, so there's a podcast that he has on vulnerability and feedback. It's just about feedback. The vulnerability part of it, though, which I found fascinating, was oftentimes we expect people who are getting the feedback to be vulnerable and open to it. But the way that he suggests is that there actually needs to be equal sides of vulnerability to truly create a relationship where feedback is both given and received, because the person who is giving the feedback has to be vulnerable to a point to then be ready to receive challenge, right? Ready to receive the feedback back. Now, you don't want to get a Band-Aid ripping contest, right? Like, you rip off my Band-Aid, I'm going to rip off your Band, right? You don't want to get into that. But it is interesting as you start to have that vulnerability conversation, and you work with leaders every day. Vulnerability, I love to tell people I'm very comfortable with vulnerability. And then my therapist, Deb, is like, you're comfortable with other people's vulnerability, not your own. And I was like, Deb, damn it. You can't call me out like that. How do you help folks think through that or work through that? Or do you tell them to go work with their therapist?
I think there's room for both. I think there's room for both. You should have both on speed dial. I think vulnerability is an interesting thing. I think everyone has a different relationship with vulnerability. And to be curious, I mean, even for me to be curious about something I don't know is to be vulnerable, or to admit that I don't know something. So, I mean, it's not even necessarily in as it relates to giving or receiving feedback. Absolutely. That requires vulnerability. But vulnerability, I think that's the foundation to building trust within teams or within people, conversations. But even to be curious about something, like that's the part that I always find to be interesting, is I can ask people a lot of questions and it doesn't bother me. But for other people, that might show them I don't know something, or if I have to ask for help. I mean, those are all vulnerable situations too. So the link between curiosity and vulnerability, and Brene Brown does a lot of great work with that. But here was my question earlier about personal growth, because I wanna get this one back in, because I'm curious about this with you. You had said I read or do podcasts, and I mean, you invest in yourself. But what started that? Like, why did you start to work at your personal game as much as you have? Because you're committed. You invest in a lot of that as a leader.
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think I'm the son of educators. And my something that this podcast probably says once every 3 episodes is like, the best way to show somebody you love them is to teach them something. And so I think that idea of curiosity, wanting to learn more, has always been ingrained. As a self-taught designer and writer and all of these things, part of it is that learning I find so fun. I think where the pivot happened towards like self, like learning more about self instead of like individual skills, happened at this funny turning point where we had a project manager, we had a writer, we had a designer, and we had a filmmaker all on our team who were way better than I was. So everything that Tellwell does is something that at one point I did, because I did it as a solopreneur. I did it as a freelancer. I did it as just as an independent. And so there was a long time in there that I was still like better, like skill wise, than the folks that we hired for a variety of reasons. But there was this interesting thing that when they got better, like objectively better at what they did, because it was their profession, right? It was their vocation, that I was like, oh shit, what's my job now? And I think that was like that was part of it. And then like the scarier thing was when I didn't know how to help them get better. Because I was like, what do I have to offer you? Oh my God, I was in Canva today and I was in Illustrator today. I'm like, what the hell do these people do these days? I don't know this anymore. And so part of the realization was that my job is no longer the thing. My job is to help people get better. And I think it was that when that became then my vocation is to like the work on the people, the work on the strategy, the work on the thing around the thing is what forced my hand a little bit, right? And that came with a lot of mad, sad, frustrated team members that I wasn't showing up the way that they needed to. I wasn't showing up the way that I needed to, or that we even knew how, right? We didn't know even what the words were to ask each other of that. And so, yeah, it's from like, that frustration, right? The not having the skill set. But then 2 was really about figuring out, if I'm going to make this into a career that's going to last another 10, 15, 20 years, my job changes. So.
I was just curious.
You are a curious cat. Let's get back to your questions. I love
this interview real quick. I can flip this real quick.
Here's the thing. I'm a podcast guest on the regular, and it's actually one of the pieces of feedback that I've gotten where I'm like, fascinating. Can you tell me more about that? Because it's just, I think one of the most fascinating things, and I love this, is just the most important part of being a storyteller is actually being a story listener. And the most important thing that you can do is get people to listen more. Because it's when you understand somebody's story a little bit more that you can truly make like connection and build relationships, which I know is your thing. So yeah, you had mentioned that you love listening for people's stories though. So beyond curiosity, unpack that a little bit.
What about that I love?
You said I could be sitting at a resort or an airport or somewhere, and I'm just like, I'm aware, and I'm trying to figure out why this thing happens. I'm trying to figure out their story. I'm trying to figure out those things. Where does that come from?
I don't know. I've always been curious. I've been curious I think it started with people. So right after I interned, I worked for a company for 10 years where I had an opportunity to interview a lot of people each month. And my job was to place as many of them as I could in jobs. So I had the opportunity to not only learn about people's experience, but especially in leadership, and you would know this, that it's hard to separate out work and personal.
Mm-hmm.
So as I was learning about people's work experience, I was also learning about them personally. And I was asking questions for a living. That's what I was supposed to do. And then that turned into a love for studying business. I'm fascinated by business and industry, company tours, whether it's manufacturing or distribution or aerospace. I mean, I've had exposure to a lot of it. So I don't know, the curiosity just drives me. I love to learn. Always fascinated by people that are more successful than I. Everyone defines success differently, but people that are there's so many crazy, cool jobs in this world, and businesses, crazy, cool business too. So anyway, I'm just going to be a lifelong student in all of it.
I love that. So given your roots in North Dakota and your growth into really a national advisory practice, because you have clients all over the country, how has your Midwest upbringing informed your leadership style?
That's a really good question.
Thinking about this kind of especially in your work with high-stakes boards, right, and multinational CEOs, how do you bring that Midwest goodness to them?
Midwest goodness. Well, I think it's values. When I started Allegro 10 years ago, when I started out and what we're doing today, I don't know that I could have even imagined it. We've had some pretty incredible experiences and opportunities that have shaped and stretched me, but I've always wanted to stay aligned to my values. And I want to find other values-based leaders. So values, North Dakota values, work ethic, grit and tenacity. Some of the leadership skills that we work and study, like how do you actually build those things? And some of it's just where we grew up and how we were taught. But I grew up in a really small town. My mom worked 4 jobs. She was a kindergarten teacher. So, she taught me some incredible things about work ethic and always to be humble. Like I very much value humility, and those are just 2 things that ground me, is work ethic and the value of humility. So I always take that wherever I go. And I think that also, like, asking about other people, like caring about other people, like you think about building a muscle of curiosity, or where does that come from? You have to want to care. You have to want to listen to somebody else's story. But my mom demonstrated that or modeled that. She always is so busy asking about everybody else versus talking about herself. So she was demonstrating that her whole life. But anyway, those are some of the things that are important to me that have shaped me. And I think we bring a lot of that to the work that we do. I surround myself with amazing people that embody those values as well.
I want to pull on this thread of mom a little bit, because I see really, it feels like obvious parallels between being a CEO, coach, and advisor and a kindergarten teacher.
Yeah. You do see obvious parallels?
Don't you?
I want to know what they are.
I was curious.
I've never thought of it.
To me, you're teaching foundation. You're teaching them how, or reteaching them how to be a good human again.
That is so good. I'm going to make sure my mom listens to this, because sometimes when she listens to the work that I do, she's like, I don't know how you came from me. I don't know where you got this. So I'm going to tell her tonight. I'm going to call her when I leave here. I'm going to say, Max told me that you clearly see the parallels between being a kindergarten teacher and being an advisor to CEOs and senior leadership teams.
But I'm curious, pull on that thread. It's fascinating.
My entire family are educators.
Okay.
Everybody came from education. My mom was a kindergarten teacher, my dad, music teacher. So I've surrounded myself, much like you, with learners and those that want to contribute and make a difference in people's lives. And I guess I've never looked at it that simply, but 100%, kindergarten is your foundation. And the patience that you need in kindergarten. I often wondered how my mom did that, from runny noses to teaching, kids how to write their names. She has incredible patience and such an open mind. And I hope that she would say that I embody that, because I think that's really important when you go into an organization and when you're working with anybody. I believe that there's good in all people, regardless of a leadership brand or the boss hole status that you think someone might have. I do believe there's good in all people. But I think that's something, too, that my mom approached with every student and every family. So I hope I do that same thing.
I think I'm guessing that she's retired.
She is.
Okay.
Well, she's semi-retired. She still works. She finds a way to work, but yes.
Good on her. But So my mom at the end of her career was a para-educator. And one of the things that she did better than anybody was just met people where they were, met those kids where they were.
Yeah.
And it didn't matter what their home situation was. She respected it and she loved on them. And I think it's interesting because you really have to take a CEO from where they are, right? You don't get to control their education. You don't get to control their team. You don't get to control any of those factors. You just get to meet them where they are. And then hopefully when they're leaving your cradle, they are, or your classroom, they're leaving a slightly better person. And I would imagine kindergarten, same thing. You have no idea if those kids got a jump start with preschool or with super involved parents, but I would guess that your mom hopes that they left just a little bit better.
Oh, absolutely. That's a really interesting parallel. And I mean, I came from really humble beginnings. And if my mom was here, she would tell you we had some hard times.
Yeah.
But we can control how we show up and what we make from that. And I think that's also a big part of what inspires our work. We have a mastermind program, and the goal and the concept of the mastermind program is to inspire people to take a personal responsibility for themselves. My mom never, I could call home to my mom and I could feel sorry for myself on whatever it was. And she would remind me in a loving way, but the world doesn't owe you anything, Kara. You know, it's about how you grow yourself. It's about how you respond. It's about how you show up. And so that self accountability to work at self, that's what inspired my personal growth journey. Is I am the common denominator. And I think so oftentimes people are looking for the job or the culture or the boss to fill them up. And, you know, you not everybody does, but I hope that most people reach a point in their life where they're like, I'm the common denominator here. There's one person looking back in the mirror and it's me. I've got to do the work on me. But that came from my mom, and maybe foundationally was set in kindergarten.
I was gonna say, if you write a book on it, I just want a little mention at the end. Thought about this
12.
on a podcast. Yeah. Okay, as we wrap up, we have a couple of standard questions. Can you believe we've already been going for 30 minutes?
It's crazy.
Wild. But we believe that story. Allison's, have we? I've been timing this. It's only been 28 minutes and 18 seconds. No,
she has a list. Get to this topic.
It. Oh, does she?
I have no idea.
Oh, I was like, if we came with an agenda. Oh, I love this. Okay, you might have guessed. Like, this is a podcast where story is the foundation. And I'm curious, do you have one story from your life or your work that still inspires or shapes how you show up today?
One story from my life that inspires how I show up each day? I don't want to get emotional about it, but I might. I remember specifically a time in my life where I got a call. I was pregnant with my second child, second professional job in my life, that my dad had passed away unexpectedly. And that will forever shape me as a leader and as a person, because that day reminded me that tomorrow isn't promised. He was 62 years old, super healthy in all the right ways. And yeah, I mean, it was just completely unexpected loss. So it always gives me that perspective to focus on what really matters, because tomorrow isn't always promised. And that gave me a completely new lease on pursuing the things that I really cared about the most, my values, my family, my faith, but even how I grow my business, doing things that I'm energized by, that I'm super passionate about. And then also making sure I'm busting through some of the inner barriers or limiting beliefs I might have of myself to go and reach my full potential, whatever that might look like. And I want to do that and demonstrate that so I can inspire other people to do the same thing.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
What is one simple good thing that you'd leave people with? A piece of wisdom or just a reminder that helps them kind of lead every day with purpose?
Simple wisdom. I'll tell you a story. So I always make a list each year of people that I want to interview in my life, like a bucket list of, God, if I could only spend time with this person or this person. And it's not always in business. You know, it could be elite military, or it could be someone that's off the grid, government official, something like that. And so I remember one year I was hosting somebody that was not from here, but we were doing an immersion day. And I was so fascinated about his morning routine. And so I was like, all the things. You're a super successful guy. You have this high profile position. And so I just wanted to learn all of the things. And so I asked him that morning, tell me about your morning routine. What do you do? How do you start each day? And he opened up his journal and he said, I wrote to love you and your team today. And I was so taken back by that, because in business, we don't use words like that. So I've had much reflection after that. And he's now a really good friend of mine and one of our impact advisors. But it was a super simple but profound thing to say, because, and some people might be like, oh, that's a little soft, a little bit cheesy, but it isn't. I think that we need to be more compassionate and curious in this world. And the common theme in all of that is love. But I was surprised to hear someone of his level, or like I said, whatever, you know, it just was so surprising to me, but such a good reminder. I think we need to be more curious. I think we need to be more open-minded and learn about other people's perspectives. And I think we need to love in a different way. And loving doesn't mean being kind and passive aggressive. It means having the courage to say hard things at times. That's a good form of love too. So anyway.
What I love about that is in our trust funnel, in our storytelling framework, in our marketing funnel, the fourth part of our marketing funnel is remind people that you love them. So that way they remember that they love you too.
Wow.
Because I think it is the most overlooked part of business to actually love the people that you work with. And if you don't, you shouldn't be in that business. That's right. And that's coming from a place of privilege. I recognize we get to choose who we work with and we get those things. But I think if you can show people that you love them, remind them that they love you too, you're set for business, you're set for life.
I agree. It's a powerful thing.
Kara, if people want to interact with you or with Allegro Group, where do they do that?
You can check us out online on our website. We're on all the social media platforms, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook. Allison is a great person to connect with.
Are you a TikToker?
I am not yet. Did you hear yet?
Oh, well, I'm proud of you. I am trying to actively delete TikTok, but I'm proud of you for trying to get on it.
No, I have no strategy there.
That's all right. Kara Jorvig, thanks so much for
having me.
all of the work that you do to show up for our community. Thanks for the work that you're doing to create fewer boss holes in the world. And thanks for all of the work that you're doing to just show up with love and share your stories and share your curiosity.
Thank you, Max.
Thanks for spending some time with us today. I hope this conversation gave you something useful to take back to your work. If you're looking for more resources on storytelling, strategy, and building communications that actually move people to action, head on over to WeTellWell.com. We've got guides, case stories, and plenty of ways to dig deeper. And if you're at a point where you're ready to get serious about clarifying your message or telling your story in a bigger way, let's talk. You can book a planning call with our team right on the website. We'd love to hear what you're working on. One last thing. If this episode was helpful, share it with someone on your team or leave us a review. It really does help other mission-driven folks find the show. I'm Max Kringen. Thanks for listening to Tell Well the podcast. Now go tell your story well, because a well-told story can move your mission forward and change the world.